So to start out with, our first speaker who wants to give us some great remembrances of Helen is Katy Hogan, who she's a very old friend of Helen, but I said not an old friend, a long-time friend of Helen. So, Katy Hogan.
I'd like to ask Barb Tuss and Susan Rands to flank me up here because, yes, we are old and we are old friends. The reason I'm bringing these girls up is they came the furthest. She came the furthest from California to be here today, Barb Tuss. And she drove the longest, 7 hours from the UP, unless somebody else beats her out.
Boston.
All right.
Boston. All right, see, she made that up.
Okay. So take your shoes off. Let your feet touch the sand. That's what Helen did when she would come down from this house that we rented, our first apartment. Barb and I just walked by it. We remembered at the end of our very active summer of 1971, adding up all the overnight visitors, not just the private ones, the people who came to crash, and it was 56 in 3 months. Oh my God! And we weren't really giving it out at that time. So these were people who slept on the porch, slept on the couches, liked what they saw. How couldn't you? And it was that time of being together. And Helen lived on this block a lot longer than I did, a lot longer than Barb did, and then of course bought her condo after. Rance and I went to high school with her. So who beats that out other than Doria? I think basically other than Doria's, we're the people who know her the longest. She was always as great as you knew her. She only got greater. I want to thank Donna Vitale and Brandon right off the bat. Was complete forest. So you and the Park District partners are really to be applauded, which you just did. Right. All I can remember, don't do that, about this time in our lives when we lived right here on this block and would come down here, is that we would use this beach as a place to hang, eat dinner, go swimming, come out and cry, come out and have reflective moments. And Helen and the energy of the era really sort of infused everything that happened thereafter, which was a lot of political activity, a lot of community organizing activity, which made us eventually feel like Rogers Park was one of the more self-determined areas we could live. And whenever I leave Rogers Park, I know what I'm missing. I'm missing that sense of self-determination in a community. It's very rare. And I'm so glad that Helen was here to help us do that. And I'm going to see if either of these gals has anything else to say.
You go.
Well, Mundelein is the start for me with Susan.
Talk right into the mic. Talk right in.
Mundelein is the starting point for me with Helen and Susan and Katy. And it was always the lake was always the defining thing for all of us. And that once we left the dorms at Mundelein, it was like the quest for an apartment east of Sheridan. It was like that was the holy grail. And just so many wonderful times associated with that. And I moved away from Chicago in 1988, and Helen was really my anchor back here in Chicago. And I spent many incredible times with her in her apartment on Columbia, her condo. And whenever I came, we always would walk down to the beach, down to the pier, whether it was fall or winter, whether it was the heat of summer, whether we were in a happy, good place, whether we were struggling with things. And that the lake and the open space here always made us feel better. That it's the breath of the city that's this open space. And Helen had such a passion for the importance of open space in the community and how that is a place for the development of community. And I feel like that is such an important lesson for all of us in preserving the open spaces that help us know our neighbors and not be subject to the kind of fear that's running rampant in our country right now. And that lets us know our neighbors and see them and embrace them and know that we are all part of making where we live a wonderful place. And so this is an incredible testament both to the public mission of Helen's life and also to what I know it meant for her privately and what it means for me and the memories that I have of that. So it's wonderful to be here and to see so many old friends and to know that she's had such an impact on this community and on the city. Thanks.
I don't have much to add, though I am wearing my Helen Doria hat. And yeah, it is. And I'm also wearing my "The Lake is the Boss" t-shirt. Now, it's about another lake that I happen to live near right now, Lake Superior, but still, I wanted to just add one little thing. Katie and Helen and I all grew up on the southwest side of Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay? But that is about as far from Lake Michigan as you can get. It was this mythical thing that we only got to visit when either our parents picked us up in the cars and took us to the lake, or later when they let us ride the buses and I would take the 79th Street bus for 2.5 hours to Rainbow Beach. So it was this thing that it just meant like fairy tales to us from living on the southwest side. When we came to Mundelein and the lake was right there, it was like the greatest gift anybody could ever have given us. And to this day, it's still the magic of why we stayed living here for as long as we did. Helen, her whole life, I lived here for 29 years. The lake was a gift to a bunch of little Southwest Side girls who never really got to see water much, and it made Helen partially who she became. And I miss her terribly for that. Thanks.
Take your shoes off.